topics were up here. These are like the concepts, then student first name, last name. So it has like, I'm giggling because these are my kids and they have hilarious names, as I'm sure you guys found out when you wrote them down, like Tisha and Aisha, the twins. So you just put the student's names here, and then you're putting a 1 or a 0 for everything like a 0 for what they did not grasp and a 1 for what they did grasp. Okay, now do people sort of remember what I'm talking about with the tracker? All right. So the premise of this is that you should be able to look at this data and do two things. You should be able to able to evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of the class as a whole, right? So an area where there's a lot of 1s, or whatever your percentage is for that area, like you can see down here, you have some number that did it correct, and then like a percent correct. So 70% of students were able to label something correct about the engineer for this example, and so that is an area that is a strength for that particular class. 0 students were able to correctly assess streamlines. Okay, so that's a huge area of weakness. So the idea behind all this is that this is your pre-assessment data that you're able to use. When you give an assessment at the very end, you want to see these numbers jump significantly. All right? So this is sort of a way to help inform you what students do and do not know. Now this is just the data section of it. What else do you have that is easy, like a little more accessible to use? Just the student work, right? The actual pre-assessment, okay? So when you look at the pre-assessment, you should be able to tell how did the student answer this specific question, what did they seem to grasp more, and what did they not grasp as much. So we don't give any partial credit on these, okay? The reason for that is essentially that the student should have a full grasp of that content area the way you want them to answer the question. And so something that I would look on here that's a little suspect to me is like 70% of students with the engineering. Like, what are they saying?
They're like, a few people so
understand, right? And for us, the objective is that engineers are people who design, who build models, who experiment with different materials in a variety of different subjects. If the student's not answering that, they have a 0. All right? So for the students, because a lot of students are going to say, an engineer is a what? Mechanic, right? An engineer fixes cars. An engineer works on cars. They're not thinking of the kinds of engineer you're thinking. Yes, I realize that there are engineers who design cars and build them, but most people here aren't thinking, okay, when I'm done with school, I'm going to be a mechanic, right? You need to understand what the student audience is thinking, and what you're actually thinking you will translate and teach them, okay? So for all of the areas, if a student, let's say the streamline question, they're able to draw a bunch of arrows or like waves around the fish, right? That's what a lot of students drew. If they're not demonstrating the content objective that you're teaching them, then they have a 0. All right? If they're not able to demonstrate a streamline is something like an arrow going around the body of the fish and around the bottom of the fish, then they're not demonstrating the concept you're teaching. Okay? So that's all I want to say about the tracking document is just it's intended to help you understand what students do and do not know, and when you grade it, grade hard. You're not giving partial credit, you're not giving students answers for stuff that sound close or look close, and I'm just picking on this group because I have their data in my hand, but like, that's because we didn't have a specific conversation about this either. So this just goes for everyone in general. If the students are not explaining to you the concept, how you intended to teach it to them specifically, then, and they're just pulling on random other stuff they know, they're not meeting that assessment objective, even if it's something kind of close. Okay? So the reason why we're talking about this right now is because, well, I made some of the assessments for you guys to use, although Robbie did his own, which is awesome for this round. The next round, you're all going to be designing your own assessments, and I'm going to be grading your assessments, like how strongly they are specific and aligned to the objective that you're trying to teach kids, and how you grade them and actually use that data. So just keep that in mind. This is sort of your practice round to look at, but that's how the tracker should be used. And for exit slip people, it's used exactly the same way. You just give each exit slip has a specific content topic like buoyancy or density or viscosity and what you wanted the student to understand about that, and then it's a 0 or a 1 whether they mastered that in their writing or whether they didn't. Question?